Okay, thought I would do something on flight. Flight of the bumblebees. So I'm going to start off with some sort of character. Something like that. That'll work just fine. And we obviously need a camera. I'm going to tag it as main camera, just in case we happen to need that at some point in time. And I want a empty, and call this pivot. You can call it camera pivot or something. I'm going to bring it up 1.4-ish. And a little higher. Stick it kind of around the shoulder. And on the camera, I'm going to transform point of this pivot with a offset, which will give me a vector every frame, and then I'm just going to set position. Pretty basic, pretty simple, and yet it'll be very effective. But I'm going to put it in late update. Okay, now if I take the offset and I stick it out here, we can take this thing and we can put it anywhere we want, right? Like maybe make it 4, 1. It's probably good. You can also add a little bit of an offset here if you want to, but I'm going to keep it like, say, 1 and -4. Oh, -4, not -1. Well, again, you can do it any which way you want. And that will do our camera. Now on the pivot, actually, you know what? Let's put it up here. Screw it. So we need a movement, and we need a look. So I am going to get axes. I could get 2 of them in here, right? And you mouse X, store that as X, and get mouse Y, store that as Y. And you're going to need big multipliers here. And then we're going to do some rotates. Let's get 2 of those. You could also put one of these into the actual movement controller portion of it. So one, we're going to rotate the player self per second on the Y, and we're going to use the X. Next, we want to rotate the pivot on the Z with the Y per second. And I move those down here. I like having everything in order, right? And what that'll do is, okay, it's probably a bad example until I do a look at. The other thing I want to do is look at. You look at player. Actually, it's almost better if you choose a better spot to look at, like for example his head, vertical off. Right, and now we have a We will see if that works. Usually I put the rotate of the player into the actual movement, but it really shouldn't matter. Let's get axis vector. And this is also a vector. And we will simple move. And maybe just like a 2.5 self. And of course he needs a character controller if we're going to use that. And I like to put min move distance to there. That controller is right messed up, so let's put that as a 1.8 and 0.9 and 0.25. Now I need to assign the vector or else it ain't going to work. So let's do that. Feels to me like the look this guy needs to go up higher. The left and right can go a little quicker too. That's not moving. Why is that? Let's take a quick looky see. You know what? I wonder if I can just use mouse look for this. And if we cancel that, and mouse look the pivot, if that would give us a little better control. So sensitivity on the X, we're going to put that to 0, -3. Let's adjust those. All right, so let's take this. I think -45 might be better. And then maybe a 60 on the up. Yeah, that feels not bad. -45, 60. And then the rotate. Now we turn, we look. That's pretty decent. Maybe a little fast on the mouse, not too bad. A little slow on the X. So let's get that. And let's take this 2.5. Okay, that works. Let's do that. That's a nice way. It's pretty. Notice I have the negative here. That's just to invert it. Just an easy way to invert it. If you pull down, if you wanted to go one way, you make it 2.5. Want to go the other way, make it -2.5. Whatever, don't matter. So let's also, I've played around with a couple different styles of this. Where's our JetPack? There it is. If I create a Animator Controller, right, we stick it on our player, take off root motion, go to the animator, and we have a horizontal, a vertical. We also want a flight. So what do we need? We need a blend tree. Locomotion. And this blend tree, when we go into it, I'm going to turn it into 2D Cartesian and vertical. So we're using these two floats in here to make some sort of blend tree. And I want, say, 5 positions. Usually you'd go a fair bit more, but I don't need a whole lot in this situation. There we go. So we have an idle, 0, 0. We're not touching anything. Let's have a, maybe we'll do walks. So if we go forward, and let's do a strafe left. So that's a -1 on the horizontal. Strafe right will be a 1 on the horizontal. Walk backwards will be a -1 on the Y. Vertical. And if you want to test it, you can look at it. Right, we're walking forward, we're walking backwards, we're walking horizontal. If you want, you can do a bit of a mix. Life is good. There we have that. Now we also want a jump. Jump in place all is probably not what I want. There's a land. Land hard. Let's use the land hard. Let's get a little dramatic with it. Jump idle start. Nope. Basics. Do we have any just starting of a jump? If not, I'll show you how to use the blend tree to make it so. Me. So, for example, we have the land, right? There's a land into the walk. So you see how this jump all in place, right? Well, we don't want the part of that, but we don't need to use it all. And we could use, watch this, I'll use the same animation. And we can go into our falling, into our landing, and back. Just like that. Right? So all we got to do then is we're here, we hit a button, we want to see the launching, right? So now we go into this one, and this one is a little different though, because we don't want this whole thing to play, right? We just want pretty much there, right? And then be kind of in a loop. So I'm going to take this and drag it over. And what else can we do? I would need to cut that. All right. let's cut it. Just in case you guys haven't seen it before, let's cut it. I'm going to duplicate this. This will make it easier. Of course, it's got a pile of animations in that FBX file, so it takes a second. But not a biggie. Right, so now we have this one. So I can go into this one, right? So if I look at that jump all place, right? I can go in here, say we just want something in the air, right? Like something, you know, roughly in a looping cycle, say roughly about there. And only loop it, say to about there. Now all of a sudden I have a, granted it's short, it's not meant to be like that, but you shall see. And then we can loop pose, loop time on it. It's only one frame. I probably should have extended it out to at least a couple frames. Right. Oop. Like we want to loop pose. Let's take that out just a little bit. Like that. Let's go 18. Maybe this guy out just one more. 3 frames. Good enough. Good enough. 5 frames. Whatever. It'll give us something. And normally you would have a jumping animation split up already pre-made. I, however, don't. Alright, so now that we have that, let's just take this one. So this is a jump all in place. And we use that same animation. Right, so now he jumps and we want to go here and start blending it in. Just like that. And then for the falling, all right. So what do we need? We need this there and this to be, oh, we don't have a jump. Let's do a trigger for jump. Jump. So we have jumped. We use our trigger jump. Ba-doop. And we go, we come over here, and this thing needs some sort of switch or something, because we're going to go from here into a flight if we wanted to. And I grabbed a few right. I'm floating, so we can go like this. If flight is true, you know, we could, oh, well, let's make that blend a little bigger. All right. All right, a little jagged, but whatever. So this is if we have flight, right? Both of those going up here. But we need something here to say we're dropping. So how do we want to do that? We jump, we go up here. This thing has an exit time. You know what we could do? Let's take this one and slow them right down. And let's just do a big transition. Let's say we have a fixed duration. Duration is going to be, I don't know, 1 second. Right? Because now, if we go into here, we just have a little basic, like there's literally nothing here, right? We have to do the animator for that. But then if we get key down, we'll say space, we can do a jump. Ba-doop. Jump with a capital U. And we just do a jump. All right. Now we don't necessarily want to just do a jump and call it good, because we want the animation to play. In the animation, the jump isn't just like some instant thing, right? For space moving. So we want to set animator trigger. Oh, that's target. Don't do that. Let's use jump, and let's just do a tiny wait. And this is why we're doing a wait. I'll show you why we're doing a wait right here. So if we look at the animator, if we hit the button, we're going to launch into this state. All right. So we hit the button, but we don't want him to be flying upwards like now, right? Because in the animation, he goes down and then he jumps, right? So we want him, we don't actually want an upwards force until about there, right? So we want a, third of a second kind of idea until we see that upwards force. Something like that. Then do the jump. Now with that jump, during this, we can have a landed event, but we also want to do a wait in here, because I have that animation where he kind of does his going from the upwards to down. So air, move in air, I think it is, yeah, because it has a landed event as well. You can even use the same vector if you want. Right, so then we have something probably a little nicer looking that might need some tweaking, where if we hit jump, and obviously we have to do some sort of something there. But see how his vertical force doesn't quite happen right away, and it needs to actually change a bit, right? Maybe 0.5. Then the other thing we've seen has exit time. Turn that off. And I'm going to go to the transition and bring that down, because we want that to be pretty snappy. Right? And now what do we have? We have something happening there that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Oh, let's come out of maximum play. Let's go. So we're here. The conditions, right? Oh yeah, so obviously we need a condition to come out of the falling, which would only make sense to have a bool in here for grounded, right? So bool grounded is true. right? So then, in the movement, what are we going to do here? Set bool, grounded, false. And if we land, we want that animation to be true. We want that to swap over and return. Right? Much more fluent looking. Ba-doop. Now the other thing you might want that I've already seen is after we've landed, we set that there. We might want to just put a little weight in there so we can't instantly jump again or move right away to prevent that from happening. Right, so right here I don't want to be able to jump again until maybe there. But even at 0.7 it was still a little short. All right, maybe we'll try the full second. Okay, so now we have movement and jumping. So what's the other thing we could do? If we hit one of these two states, we're in the air. We know that. These are our air states. This is our landing. This is our takeoff. Right? I should probably name those. Just like that. We have kind of two parts to our air, right? The going up and the coming down. Now from either one of those, let's get this key again. Only this time let's call an event called fly. And if I grab that, copy that, paste it over here. There. Now we can, and this is when you want, like I'm not actually going to use the in-air movement, but I'll show you something anyways. Oh, whoops. Whoopsie doodle. So I'm going to put this at 0.15. So if we jump, and we hit jump again, flying upwards. Right? And that's just using this controller with air. And if I put this to 0, doesn't really do much of anything, right? Let's try 0.1. He's going and he's picking up speed. So, and this is why I don't use the controller movement air. Like, unless you take away, I mean, possibly, I don't know, if you bring that down, maybe. Let's set that. So it's like we're going to go in 0G. I'm assuming that's kind of how we'd. I think that's kind of how that should work. Fall multiplier. Well, it's actually not that bad. A a little iffy. So if you put a gravity multiplier of 1, well, maybe we can use it. All right. Maybe we can. Copy. Let's try. So just like the animations before, let's do that same thing. Right? We have an animator that we want to tell it that we're going in flight is true. I put it into a new state because I don't know if I'm going to need a delay in it or not. And he is coming down. Oh, that's weird. All right, let's get rid of that. So, okay, flight in true. Now that didn't happen instantly. That's because these, make sure to turn those off. So, the way I would do flight, put a rigid body, put kinetic on, and now we can set velocity. Controller. Actually, I've never used this. Set controller velocity. I'm kind of curious if that even works. Maybe it does. I was assuming to use a velocity. Oh, maybe it will work like that. Well, if that works, I'm kind of curious if we even need a rigid body then. Because normally I would use rigid body and we'll just manipulate that as we move around. But if the controller action of this works, and that's just peachy keen, that'll work fine. Okay, there we go. Set controller velocity. So now we're in flight. So this one, we could, I don't think we need a delay, so let's stick it in here and just bring those over to keep this kind of clean. Let's get rid of that. So now we're in flight. So this moves left, right, forward, and back, but what about up and down, right? So bool to float. Well, let's do this. Let's get key, not key down, just get keys. Okay, I'm gonna get 2 of those. Let's say let's use a space again, and we'll call this up, and let's use left control, and let's use down. Now let's convert up. Float vertical will be up float. False is 0. True is, we'll say 5. Okay, same thing. Down, down float. I spelled that completely wrong. So false is 0. True is -5. All right, now float operator. Let's move him down here. And let's take down float, up float, add them, and make vertical movement. All right. Now if we come back up here, let's move him right to the bottom. We want to make sure he's doing everything at the end. So we have that. I'm going to add him there. And I might have to set this vector, but this should work. Right? So we're floating. If I hold down space, I go up. Hold down left control, I go down. But I can also use left and right, and forward and back. So the forward and back are really slow though. So let's take that and boost that by 5. Right. Now, if you wanted to, you don't have to do this, but in here, like I have floating it, you could run another state tree like this one up here, but for air, right? Bring in all sorts of stuff, and there's all sorts of different things you could do for the flying and the animations. I don't really have a whole lot of flying animations, so there's not really much I can really do, I guess, but right, so there's, okay, and it's fairly tricky looking, sneaky. Let's just collapse all that down. So while we're in here, we need a way to drop. So we could, you could do it by key. You can turn it off maybe, which I'm already using the space. Maybe that was a bad choice. I don't know. We could grounded. Since we're using controller velocity, this one should work to landed, right? Let's see if that actually triggers. Let's go down, and there it goes. It did trigger, just fine. All right, so when we land, okay, well, what are we gonna do? Are we in flight anymore? Nope, we're not. We are, flight is false, and grounded is true. I've already got grounded going true there, so I guess we don't need it here. All right. There we go. We need to set the animator up. We got nothing to come back. So from here, if flight is false, let's go grounded. Extend that out. Smooth a little blend. And pretty smooth, pretty smooth. All right, so we have looks, we have that. Let's do jets. So we have, oh, not action, sorry, I want events. Jet on and jet off. Jet off, jet on. So if jets come on, we need various things to happen. We need sound effects, we need cool things playing, we need all sorts of fun stuff. So I am going to, on the spine, doesn't really have to be the spine, I'm just putting it here because I'm picky. Let's add some effects. Let's add cartoony jump, and let's add flame boosters. Okay, so this guy here needs to turn. Now the flame booster, too big. We want it much smaller. Right, so let's stick him down here. And let's move him over here and do another one over here. Now we have 2. And then if you've seen, like in the video where I had a couple on the sides as well, we can do that. Now the only thing with all of these is make sure none of them are play on awake. Right? Looping and all that's fine, but we don't want them playing on awake. So I'm going to name this one main 1, the right, and the left. This guy here, don't play on awake. So now, what do we want to do? So jet's on. We want this guy, and drag him in, particle system, affects play with children, and particle system affects play with children. And again, particle systems affects play with children. Now on jets off though, oh, I don't need this one. We want, there is no particle system play that I've seen. It might be on the ecosystem, but I can just do call method stop. It'll work just fine. Particle system, call method, stop. Might as well cover the left and the right, make sure they aren't running. There we go. So now we'll turn those on, and then I personally think it's kind of a cool effect if you say get let's get vector, no, let's get float, get MSN, get MS FSM float. From the movement we have our up float. Let's use that one. We don't need to worry about the down. So we know the up float goes 0 to 5, I think it is. I should double check that before I remap it. Up float. Yeah, 0 to 5. So if we remap, what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, we take this float, and we want to remap it. We know it goes from 0 to 5. Well, I now want this to go from 0.1 to 0.6. Save that as S. And now I can set scale of main, and you don't need to do X, Y, and Z. If you want to just do the Y, or not do any of them, or whatever, entirely up to you. Copy that, because we have 2 little motor things, little jets. Do that same thing. The other thing I want is I'm going to make an audio, and I have this as an audio source, and in my stuff I happen to have a little something, play on awake off, loop on. So then what I want to do is I want to remap again, copy, paste actions before. We'll take the up, we know from 0 to 5, but now we want to go say 0.8 to 1.1, and this will be the pitch. So set pitch, audio pitch. He put him on the top, didn't he? Yeah. So on the audio, set pitch. Boop. The other thing we want to do is on this guy is tell this thing right at the start to audio play. Don't give it a clip. It'll make this thing play. And on this side, obviously we want to do the opposite. Audio stop. Give me a whole bit of fade time maybe. There we go. Oh, and of course, when we come into here, send event to the jets, jet on, and copy, and down here, paste jets off. Now this doesn't cover the sides, but it'll do the other ones. Now I don't like how that is so viciously fast. So how can we slow that down? There are a few different ways. So over here we are up and down. We convert it to a float. You know, what we could do is we can go 1, -1. All right, and we add those together. We have vertical movement. And then we can add that. We could add vertical movement to another value. So let's float add. This will smooth things out. So let's add a new thing called speed. This is what we're actually going to use. Speed. Let's add vertical movement per second. And now let's clamp, float clamp, because we don't want it to go frickin' nuts. Let's clamp speed to 5 and -5 every frame. Now we can use speed in here, and that'll give us more of a floating, curving number. Right, just like this one. Instead of up float, let's get speed. Now there's one thing here that we need to fix, because it's going to be a little different. Right, but now we should have see, now we have a negative effect though, right? You see how it's forcing us down? Because we need to reset things. So there's a nice little thing called absolute, and this takes away negatives, right? So not the pitch, the scale. We'll take the scale, we absolute it. So now it's only going to be 0 to 1. Or we can absolute the ups. Now it's only going to be 0 to 1. Or this might even be a better choice, is just clamp this one as well on this side. Right, so we get that, the up, and we say you can go 5 and you can go to 0, and that's it. We're not going to let you go in your negatives, sorry. Now, with that said, we still need on this guy, we get all these nice little variables and all these things happen. So what we need is, we need a way, let's bring it up here. This is where we'll do this. This will be like a reset. You know, in fact, we can even use our bool up in here just to clear up some space. But all these values, set value. Let's set some float values here. So we have the down float, paste, the up float, paste, speed. What else do we have? Vertical movement. That's probably pretty good. That should probably do it. You know, it's just a way to clear things out. But now I can climb. Oh, I let go and he doesn't stop climbing though. That's no good. But going down, you see how he's not going to the negatives now. Now the only thing is if I let go, he keeps going. So let's see why that is. Okay, so we float out. Okay, where are we here? We got the up and the down, up, down, float operator. The up and the down, we add them. We get vertical movement. So that's kind of where things are messed up, because the vertical movement's already something, and if these are both zeros, you're adding it to vertical movement, and vertical movement's just going to stay where the hell it is, right? So what we need to do is somehow zero off vertical movement, which should just be as simple as copy. Let's stick that up here every frame. You're probably thinking, like, why would you do that? Why? Right, but now if I let go, it should. No, he's not stopping. Slow them down, go into the negatives, might be kind of cool for a spaceship though. Set it and off you go. we're adding that. We almost need to reset our speed. All right. So let's approach this a little differently then. So we have a clamp. So we add them together, we get a vertical movement. And that's fine. I mean, in reality, it's fine here. We really don't need that, I suppose. We can just use our vertical movement. Wipe speed out. And change it over here. Change it over here, right? Because over here now, if we get the up. No, we get the vertical movement. I think the vertical movement here is what we should be adding in, so we're not playing with the speed. We're just playing with the jets, and the jets should be fine. It's not a big deal. So we can clamp it. You know what if, yeah, you know what, this will work just fine. This will work just fine. All right. Okay, before the remaps, so we're going to get this up. Let's just add this up to a scale, right? So our starting scale is going to be whatever this is. We're going to add to it, and we're going to clamp this value every frame per second. Add up. And then we can clamp that. Start scale, clamp that. So if we add up, we know up can go to 5, right? So let's set it to 5, because this is adding per second. So 1 second to go up and down, that's probably fine. If we want, we can go 2 maybe. That would be 2 seconds, right? And then add up. We don't need to clamp up anymore, because it's going to be, because we're getting up, which is clamped on it, which is yeah, more or less clamped on the other side. So now we can take the up. We got start scale. We add it. Float clamp it. 0 to 10, because we put 10 here. All right, let's see what that actually looks like. That should work. That might seem kind of confusing. Let's see, where are we? So it's getting it at 5. Start scale. That's the one we actually want to. So as we come down, it fades. And we go up. It grows bigger. A little slow, and it gets almost a little too big, which is fine. right? We can take this down to 5. Take that one down to 5. So this one's start scale, and those are all 5 that go up per second. So the scale, I mean 0.6 is obviously too big. Let's go 0.4. You know, maybe 0.75, 0.14. And that might be pretty good. The other thing is the actual movement was pretty slow. Right? Because we want to movement. So we have V, that's got a multiplier. The up and the down, let's just go 1 and to -1. We add those, get a vertical movement. We add that. So we're going to want to up those, right? 5 is obviously too slow. There we go. All right, we still move around. I can spin my camera. Everything's working. I land. My jets turn off. And apparently I just glide around. Why are we gliding? We're in Locomotion. We're in that. We're over there. What state are we in? We're in this state. Oh, yeah, we haven't added any of that. So, okay, from in here, the locomotion part of it, right? Because I just have the simple move. I haven't done any of the animator stuff here. So let's get vector XYZ. All right, so V, and we have an X, and we have a Z every frame. Set animator floats. Need 2 of those. All right, because we have a horizontal, which will be our X every frame. Damp time at 0.2. We have a vertical, which will be our Z. Damp time 0.2 every frame. Make sure those go below the extraction of the vector. Alright, let's turn that on. We come down, we land. We're moving around. I can strafe, I can move backwards. I mean, it's kind of sliding because my speeds are too high for my movement. Alright, so that's all kind of working. So let's bring this guy down to 2. This delay needs to be just slightly longer. So you're probably wondering, well, what about the side jets? You put them in, we're not fucking using them. What the hell, over? So what I'm going to do there is, I think I'm just going to do a separate FSM just for the side jets. It's gonna be the cleanest way to do it. Is get FSM float. Right, we're gonna get from movement we don't call it an X, do we? When we're flying? Oh, we get the axis vector, right? Okay, well. And we'll just get axis. I mean, we can get the axis float and stuff, whatever. It doesn't matter. We just need a number. Horizontal. Don't need a multiplier on this particular one. We don't care about it. Float compare. Right, so float compare, we're going to do that. If we are greater than 0.5, and the float we're looking at is that. Well, son of a, well, you know, how many times I've done that? Like, so many times, it's just crazy. Go right. Get rid of that 0.5 because it's stupid and it shouldn't be there. Copy, paste, and 0.35, whatever. I don't care if it's negative 0.35. And none, and if we're less than negative 0.35, go left. All right, so we have, here's right. Now, if we're going right, what are we going to do? Actually, here, first, if we're in this state, let's tell this guy, and there might be an action for this on ecosystem. I'm just going to use the call methods to tell these things to stop. We don't want them running, right? So there's the right, particle system, script control, call methods, stop. Void, stop what you're doing. And over here, if I'm going to go right, I want the left guy to play with children. And then while I'm over here, I want to get axes, copy, paste, and if we're going right, then if we are below 0.35, we're at least going back to idle. Copy that, paste it. And then we have a go left and idle. So on this one, obviously we don't want the left to play though, we want the right side to play. And we don't care about being less than that. We care about being greater than negative 0.35. Right? So now we have this. Now we don't necessarily want stop jets, start jets, right? Because if we don't necessarily want these things to be running when we're on the ground. So I'm actually going to make this guy a start state. And over here, let's copy those and bring them over here. All right, so now if we go into jets, we can probably just use this guy. And while we're doing all this crazy stuff, let's send event. Oh, lowered 100. To ourselves, to the side jets, to start jets. And we copy that one, bring them over here, and paste them here. To stop jets. All right, let's test. All right, so now we can turn this guy on, turn this guy on. Those get bigger, and I can turn these on. Turn them both. Oh, I can't turn them both on. I only go one side or the other, which is fine. That's normal, right? So let's just see how that kind of looks. As I said, no, my flying animation is just literally a stupid idle pose, kind of more or less. Just kind of give you an idea that you run a different animation. But like I said, like while you're up here, I mean, technically we're playing with 3 floats, so we can set 3 different floats into the animator and be running a whole new blend tree, right? And be doing like the Superman flight or something like that, or whatever the case may be. It really doesn't matter. I just have a basic thing here. Yeah, we can still do our jump. And we can turn on our jets anytime. Ah. right? So that's kind of how that works. Now, I don't want this video to go on for a long time. It's already over an hour. So I'm probably going to end it pretty close to here. But if you want something like fuel, you can simply make another FSM called fuel, right? And do this the same kind of setup, right? We have start and stop. So on a start draining fuel. On a stop draining fuel, or stop draining fuel and start adding fuel, right? Because maybe it's a recharge thing or something. I don't know. But in this guy, you would have probably a float called fuel, and stick them out here. In this phase, right here, see these two flies? Well, what would happen if you just went ba-doop, ba-doop, and get FSM float, float compare, right? So we're going to get the float. We're going to get from fuel, stored as fuel, and compare fuel to, I don't know, 10, sure. And if it's equal, you can fly. If it's less, you can't fly. And if it's greater, you can fly. Can fly, can't fly. Actually, you might almost even want to copy this and paste it over twice. Right, so if you come from this one, if you can, if you can't go back to this one, oh wait, you don't want to do that because he has the jump. Don't do that. Bad idea. Don't copy this guy. Just can't go to this one. There you go. So now I can jump all I want, and I can't fly. Right? But the minute I take this guy up above 10, I can fly. Just like that, right? So piles of different places to add on to, for sure. But that should give you a pretty good idea of where and how to start making a flight system. And this is all just using the controllers. Actually, this is relatively something newer to me. I mean, I was fully expecting and planning on using the set velocities, but I mean, with the new actions, if this thing works, why not use it, right? It just makes life easier. I got two things here, so cool. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later on. Peace out.